welcome back, everybody, to another episode of Your Story. Today, I am joined by Izzy, or online, she is known as, was it Shit Talker 4, but it's
Yep.
SHTALKER 4, probably because of Instagram not allowing to curse words, or not sure how that happened. I know a little bit about your story, but I don't know a lot, like we were saying before the call. I know that you have a heck of a road when it's come to relationships, and now you're an advocate for men's mental health, which I find a little bit, to me, as an unusual combo, as many women that I've known that have been burned by guys tend to resent them versus advocating for them. So what was the inspiration for your advocation that has amassed over 200,000 followers on TikTok and 48,000 over Instagram?
So I in the past I used to do more of like cosplay type focus stuff. And like I knew it does well because that's, it's everyone loves a good cosplay, girls, whatever, being cute. And I was like kind of just going with it because I'd gotten so many followers from like a thing a long, long time ago. And then I recently became friends with this friend of mine. And I've always been like, I worked in automotive detailing. So I've always been kind of like one of the boys type of aspect. Like I've always been surrounded by men. Like I'm not a huge like girl's friend kind of girl. Like, it's just not who I've ever been. I had stepbrothers. I had one stepsister, but we're not great. We're not great terms. But so I've always been surrounded by men. And so I was kind of doing something that I was just like, kind of hitting a wall with, and I was like, I'm just not happy with what I'm doing anymore. Like I just don't care what I'm putting myself into. Like I just don't care to make TikToks. It's just like the same kind of stuff over and over and over again. I was like, I need to like change what I'm doing. And my best guy friend was like talking one day, and he was just like, dude, like talking about things that you guys face that I was like, no one talks about this. Like no one talks about women not understanding these kinds of things. And he's like, is that something you're passionate about? And I was like, well, it's always something I've been passionate about, but the ridicule that came with it, I knew was gonna be very strong. Because you get, the guys are like, oh, you're doing cosplay, like the little nitpicky comments, but diving into something that's so criticized and ridiculed and taboo is even like a whole different level of like hate comment type things. They go for more of your like who you are and what you're passionate about versus like your looks, whatever. I've heard it all. So it was definitely something that I was like, I've always wanted to kind of dive into, but kind of too afraid at the same time. And he was like, I think you should do it. He's like, I can help you, figure out some plans, like figure out what you want to talk about. And I literally was like, you know what? I know what I want to talk about. I know what I want to do. And he's been literally my biggest motivation through it all. Cause he was raised in more of the women aspect of life. He was raised by sisters and his mom. So for him, he has more of like the women's mindset of things, and I'm more of like the man side of like his
Mm,
issues. And so
mm.
I was like, you know what? With both of us and hearing all of his struggles, he kind of hears my side of things, and hearing his side, I was like, you know what? This is what I'm so passionate about. And this is something that I want to talk about. And quite frankly, screw anyone that doesn't agree with me. I'm just going to keep doing what I want to do. And if you have a problem with it, cry about it. And
Go
that's
kick
kind of,
rocks.
yeah, I was like, let's just do it. And so over the last 30 days, have gained almost 35,000 followers from what I'm doing. And I was like, you know what? I'm so happy this year's been one thing after the other. And so for the first time in like the last 3 years, I'm like just so excited to like find something else or like research or like I want to start going to seminars. And it's like kickstarted my whole entire passion for this whole thing. So it's been like this huge thing that I've recently like really started to dive into.
I mean, when I first found you, I was going through, I might have been going through, yeah, I think Instagram Reels.
Mm-hmm.
And one of them came up, and it was you talking about the society that women have created around men, that men can't, you know, at the gym, can't even look near a woman because then it, seems like they're a creep,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm not sure the exact context of it, but it was just like, oh my God, like a woman is talking about this, and it's not like a super feminist, like, hey, we're on top of the world. It's like, hey, you need to realize that this is how guys are seeing it. It's the
Yeah.
exact opposite of almost what I was expecting. And I posted that, or I reshared it onto my Instagram and reshared it onto my Facebook. And the other day, when we had first started talking about doing this podcast, or doing this episode, I should say, my mom was asking me who I was going to have on. And I said, "Do you remember that video that I shared out?" And she goes, "Yeah, like that was actually a really cool, like I've never seen anything like it before." And I'm like, "Yeah, I know. That's what I'm having on."
You're like,
Um,
exactly.
and but I haven't had the best of years here, or the best of years. I'm in the military and I'm currently in South Korea. My family's back in Virginia. And it's been a rough year. And so hearing, like, hey, not only somebody else is talking about these issues, that I'm facing, but
Mhm.
it's a female that's talking about these issues. You just don't ever see that. And
Yeah.
and I understand, being around the guys. I was a car detailer myself before I joined the military, so I get it. You're around all the mechanics, you're around, the blue collar guys, and let's just get dirty in the mud and let's just get going with this. And the faster we get
Mhm.
done with the job, the faster we go home, that type of mentality. So I totally understand that. I
Mhm.
also grew up with three brothers, so I I get it. In the profession I'm in here is the same way. It's the faster we can get done with this, is the faster we can go home, and it's very maintenance oriented.
To
Hey,
go on top of that though, like with the whole auto technician and all that kind of stuff, that I think definitely jump started a lot of my like mindset in a way, because when you are a female in a more male dominant industry, you have to like put your best foot forward every single day. You don't really get a day where you're just like, oh, I get to be lazy because I'm a girl. It's no, I don't get to be lazy because I am a girl and I have to prove myself today. Which is like, some girls use that as an excuse. I refuse to use it as an excuse. I'm going to do everything I can to show every single guy in there that I can keep up with you. And I'm, if anything, a threat. And so working in that was like, definitely you hear things all day long. Oh, you're late. Oh, you do that because you're a girl. Oh, you have it easy. And I was like, I understood where they were coming from at the same aspect, because there is like a slight threat to your like masculinity when you see a girl doing the same job as you. And so it was definitely like I tried to make them feel as comfortable as they could. So it was like, you know what? I'm gonna like kind of join guys talk and like, talk my little shit every here and there. Like, and they would be like, okay, she gets us. So I definitely, that's where like wording wise, they taught me a lot, because it was like there's ways that you have to talk to guys versus women. And that's why I'm not good at talking to women, is because I talk to women like I'm a dude and they're like, we don't like her because she's way too blunt, she's way too honest, like, which is fine. I'm like, whatever, we're not friends, we're not cool, that's fine. But for me, I'm like, with guys, it's an instant like, okay, she has the same like no bullshit, no like backstabby comments. Like, no, if you're pissing me off, I'm looking and say you're pissing me off. Like that's just what it is.
That's how I am. I can be one of the most blunt people ever. People
Like
don't like it, but I in today's day and age, especially with, I'm going to call it the snowflake generation, because I think anybody who's born between like 98 and 03, technically we're considered like Gen Z, but there's a total difference between 98 to 2003 Gen Z and 2004 and up. And
no,
2004 and up are privileged, and like, oh, you have to respect my feelings and whatever. So snowflake generation
yeah,
compared to the
literally.
early Gen Z. With how sensitive today's world has gotten, I refuse to sugarcoat things. And my little brother was born in 2005, and my mom, when I was back home, was like, "You need to be more sensitive. You need to be more this." I said, "Okay, so you want me to coddle him?"
Literally.
And she's like, "No, that's not what I'm saying." I said, "No, that's exactly what you're saying, because I don't want to sugarcoat stuff for
Yeah,
him. You know,
exactly.
if he's gonna grow up, he needs to have a tough skin." And then I was told, "Oh, well, you're not the person to teach him to have a tough skin." I said, "Okay, fine. Well, I'm just not gonna talk to him." But then I got in trouble for that. It's like,
Yeah, right.
you grew up with three brothers, because
Mhm.
my family is four brothers. So he grew up with three brothers. He's got everybody before him born but before 2003. I was born in 01. My older brother was born in 2000, and my older brother was born in 89. So you have a lot of tough skinned, say it as it is, And
Yeah.
it sucks that he grew up in the time that he grew up in, where everyone's feelings have to be taken into account. And as I understand, you got to have compassion for people. I get that. But to a degree, it's like you can't bullshit your way around the corner. You have
Well,
to say stuff straight out.
the way I look at it is yes, we all need to be sensitive, but we're all still in the same exact world. The world is not going to be easy on you. It's not going to be compassionate. It's going to kick you when you are down. It's going to drag you through the mud while you're crying. And that does not matter. So there's no like participation award for trauma. Like
Oh,
you have to get
I
through it.
hate participation awards.
No, you don't get it if you did not win. Like it's just how it goes.
Like, but every kid needs to feel important. No, the kid needs to know he screwed up, and he needs to know how not to screw up in the future if he wants an actual trophy.
Do better. Like that's
Like, the
the most.
trophies were designed for the winners. The trophies were not designed for everybody. Like, I was in marching band in high school, and if you won a competition, cool, you got a great trophy. Now it's, if you didn't win, you got a trophy the size of this water bottle to say, hey, thanks for coming out. And it's like, no, don't give us anything. We didn't deserve it.
Didn't
We
do
didn't
well.
do our best. Like, we didn't put on a good show. Don't give us this tiny little piece of plastic that says thanks for coming out. You just don't need that. You don't need that, and I think the world is going to hell. But that's for a complete.
Back to it, right? We've gone on a tangent.
I'm sorry.
No,
Um,
you're good.
um, but that actually goes into one of the points that I have here is society. Now versus 20 years ago or even 10 years ago. No, I guess it'd be 20. Yeah, God, it's 20 years ago. I think 10 years ago, but my mind thinking 10 years ago thinks 2000. So it is 20 years ago. It's 23 years ago.
Yeah.
It was weird when I turned 21 and 22, and I'm like, yeah, mom, this happened 20 years ago. I'm like, I can't believe I just said that. No, and I think that's how everybody is, where it's like, where people think 10 years ago, they think 2000, you say 20 years, you think 1990, and it's like,
No.
yeah, I don't like those
The
numbers.
pandemic did a number on us.
It makes me feel super old, and I'm only 22. But one of the things I have in here is double standards, for men especially. We're taught to, society has just taught us, like, hey, you need to be the macho, you need to be the non-sensitive, you need to be the non-emotional, you need to be the provider, you need to be the one to be there for everybody else. But then we're the ones that are just supposed to listen to any problems that you have, and we're not supposed to say anything. And you did a video on that too, where men are fixers.
So the reason I kind of figured that one out, and the reason I made that video is because my best friend Lewis, like I was saying, every time I would go to him with a problem or like complain, I noticed every single time he would like give me a solution or a problem solve. And I used to get so upset at him. I'd be like, Lewis, I'm just trying to rant to you. Like, I need empathy right now. I'm not looking for the problem. And I realized in my head, I was like, I'm getting mad at him for being a man. And that's not fair to him. And I literally was like, I'm really sorry. Like, I understand that about him now. And I'm like, if I need a problem solution or anything, I go to him. But if I have any type of like empathy needs, I'll go to my girlfriends. And that's just a switch of that. And like the only problem with that though is that women then go into a relationship, and when they have a problem with their boyfriend, they don't want the solution to that. They just want to complain about it to their girlfriends. And then their girlfriends go, oh, just dump him as the solution, which is not the solution. The solution is to communicate with your partner about a solution to the problem, which women don't want half the time. So that's definitely, I was like, there was a big learning curve there. And so now every time I'm like, I'll go to him, I'm like, I need empathy. I don't need a solution. I just want to complain. And he's like, okay.
Thanks for making that clear. I had to learn that with my previous relationship, because every time she would come to me and she would want to rant or want to complain about something, my first instinct is, okay, well, here's a solution. Here's what you could have done better. Here's what they could have done better, whatever else it was. And then I eventually, the same thing happened. It was, hey, I just need someone to talk to. And it's like, okay. And I set my phone down and I just listened. And then eventually it was, you're not responding. I said, yeah, I'm listening to you because that's what you want.
Yes, and that's definitely as much as my videos are directed at women, I also have the goal to kind of give men the perspective of, oh, she's like, they kind of learn an aspect of me saying, well, men are problem solvers. It's them going, oh, women want to listen to the problem. So I'm trying to like play both sides, not play both sides, but make both sides understand to an equal agreement that you both can learn something from the video despite it being more directed towards women. So that's definitely been my like goal in being like, oh, okay, so my girlfriend doesn't want me to give her a problem, so she just wants to listen. So guys be like, this would solve every problem in my relationship. I'm like, do it. I promise it'll work. Like, it's just listen a little bit.
I mean, but to a degree though, as it is, like you said, your videos are more directed towards women because the problems with the guys aren't really seen as much because of that double standard.
100%.
I mean, like I said, when I watched that video, that one video that I reshared out, it was like, oh my God, you know, nobody ever thinks about this because there is that standard that we're supposed to be the tough, we're not supposed to be the emotional, we're not supposed to, you know, complain about anything, we're not supposed to, or if we are complaining about stuff, you know, we're bitching about whatever. And it's like, no, like I genuinely just have these problems and I'm having these feelings and I'm going through depression or I have all this anxiety, you know, or whatever it is. And just nobody wants to hear about it because no, like society, you just don't, as a guy, you just don't say anything.
That's definitely, and like the thing with that is that guys, like you guys don't go to each other like girls do when we have problems. You guys are just like, oh, whatever, dude, it's not that big of a deal. You guys kind of just brush it off. The majority of you, I'm not saying everybody, but most of you guys don't necessarily go and complain about nonstop. Like women, that's why I don't hang out with my girlfriends very often. It's just constant, like just complaining about something going on. It's the sky's green. I don't know, but they're gonna complain about it. And then with guys, it's just like I feel bad because I notice my guy friends are like, oh, it's no big deal. Or they play up. Like my buddy right now, he's dealing with unemployment and he's like struggling for money. And I'm like, dude, like, what can I do to help you? And he's like, nothing. And I'm like, well, we can at least talk about it. Like, what's going on? Because if you don't talk about it, you just keep it in there. And it's like, I try to at least be like, no, we're gonna word vomit a little bit if we have to. Just get it out. That's all you have. That's the first step. So I try to be like at least a little bit
I mean,
motivating in
it's
that.
always, I mean, it's always good to have somebody that you can just rant with.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, you know, a lot of the guy friends that the few guy friends that I have, it's a lot of, you know, hey, let's go and talk about this over a beer. And then by the
Mm-hmm.
end of that conversation, you're just not to the point where you want to talk about it anymore because you just have so much alcohol in your system. But to me, I don't drink that often. And so when I do, I end up talking a lot more than I probably should. But it is, it's a good thing in the same process because if I didn't have that alcohol in me, I wouldn't
Mm-hmm.
have said what I said,
Yeah.
you know? Um, but you're right, a lot of guys, it is just like, oh, you know, don't worry about it. It's not a big problem. Just brush it off. And it's like, well, if it wasn't a problem, I wouldn't be bringing it up.
Exactly. And that's why I'm always like, no, like you brought it to my attention. So it's bothering you in some aspect. We're
I
gonna
mean,
work through why it's a problem for you right now.
I mean, it's the same aspect with, you know, like if you've got a question and somebody sees it as a stupid question and them going, you don't want the answer, it's like, if I didn't want the answer, I wouldn't ask the question.
I'm gonna mention it.
Like, I genuinely want the answer. Like, don't look at me and say, you don't want the answer. It's like, no, I want the answer. I don't care if you have to be blunt. I really don't care. I want the answer or I wouldn't ask it.
Yeah, exactly.
Um, so as you talk about, you know, everybody else or men's mental health, you know, maybe targeting some women's mental health, trying to get both sides to understand everything. Where's your
Mhm.
mental health playing in all of this? Because I know you've put out on your Instagram sometime or the other day, like, hey, you know, like I'm sick or I'm laying in bed or like your dog is your motivation to get up every day. You know, your
Mhm.
gym is an outlet. You know, where's your mental health in all of this? Because it seems like you are playing both sides of the coin.
No, definitely. I mean, I think we all struggle, like no matter what. There's always an aspect that we don't talk about that's like kind of shoved down there because that's just, man or woman, there's things that you don't feel like you can talk about with anyone. So I'm a huge, like literally, I have journal after journal after journal. I journal till my freaking brains are like, just all on paper. So that's been a huge outlet for me, is
Yeah.
just journaling. Like it even if it doesn't make sense, like I'm dyslexic. Half the time I don't even know if I'm spelling things right. But that's not the point for me, is that it's at least me getting it out of my head, because I feel like people nowadays with social media, especially, you can just sit and veg out on the internet for hours and hours and hours and not realize, oh my God, it's been 3 hours. Like I'll be on TikTok for like an hour straight. My friends are like, why haven't you responded to me? I'm like, I didn't even realize that I've been scrolling for an hour. Like it's like,
I
so
don't
for
like
me,
TikTok, but I'll do the same thing with YouTube Shorts or Insta Reels or Facebook Reels
it's
or
just
something.
constant. I'm
But
always
it's
like,
but it's the same thing. So I totally get that.
yeah. So, but the gym for me is a huge outlet. Like I've been working out for about 3 years now. So the gym is like I say that the gym's my religion. I go to the gym, that's my church. Like that's where I'm going to make sure I'm in the right headspace for the rest of the day. That's why I work out in the mornings too, is because I start my day off just knowing I've done what I can and I'm here and I'm happy and I'm present. Time to go tackle the rest of the day. And naps. I really love naps.
Sleep is important.
I love a nap.
That's why I was saying the other night in the DMs, like when you were up at 3 a.m, it's like, go to sleep. Sleep is important.
Yeah, you messaged me in a very interesting moment in life that was very there was a lot happening. There's a reason why I was awake at 3 a.m. and I was angry. So I was like, I'm just gonna go do, yeah, it was interesting. I had someone come stay with me recently. So I was like, maybe this is a potential boyfriend. And then he came to visit me, and it was very clear that it was not going to be anything but a friend. Maybe not, we're not friends anymore. I mean, he's blocked on everything. But when you had messaged me, he went out to the bar and didn't come back till like 8 a.m. the next day. And told me he slept on his cousin's couch. And then I messaged his cousin and he was not on his cousin's couch. So when you messaged me, I was like, he's not even home yet. Like texting my mom. And I was like, I'm gonna respond to some like some work stuff to like clear my head. So that's why I was awake, to clarify.
You said potential boyfriend. That kind of goes against a lot of your posts that are going, I'm single, I'm happy I'm single, I don't want to be in a relationship.
So yeah, it was somebody that I'd known for a year. Like
Mm.
we've been long-term friends. And so he was like, oh, I'm gonna come out for my birthday, blah, blah, blah. And I'm kind of moving down to North Carolina, fingers crossed. So I was like, okay, maybe this could be something more in the future, not like, right away, but I was at least seeing like maybe this is someone that I could be with in way in the future, you know what I mean? So I was like, well, at least see if this is somebody that has potential, like in person, because I feel like people can be totally different people on the internet versus who
Oh
they are
yeah.
in person.
Oh yeah.
And there was a fake Southern accent out of nowhere. Like, wow,
Is that what
that's
you were referring to in your last?
yes, that's exactly what he literally. I was picked him up from the airport and I was like, literally so confused. I was like, he lives in Chicago. So I was like, where is this coming from? And he's like, this is my redneck accent. And I was like, I can't. I was like, this week is about to be the longest week of my life.
I mean, as soon as you put that story out, I mean, I'm from Virginia, and the town that I'm from, 45 minutes away, is the #1 ranked redneck town in the state. And so as soon as you put that story out, like my impersonation of a redneck accent came out, and I'm like, this is so bad.
No, but that's literally what it was. And I
I
took
mean,
him to
like,
meet.
I can talk like this if you want me to talk like this.
No, it was so much worse than that. He was like, I'll be back. And I was like, what the fuck is going on? I was like, am I losing it? Like, my dog's name is Susan. And so he's like, well, come on, Sue. And I was like,
Oh God.
what is
Oh
going
God.
on? It was bad. It was so bad. And it was like the only time he could do it was if he was yelling, basically. So when he would talk normally, like just a normal conversation, it would disappear. So I was like, what? What's going on? So yeah.
Oh,
that was super
that
fun.
is, wow. I don't, catfish is the first word that comes to mind, but if it's just a stupid accent, I don't know if I classify that as catfish.
He told me he was 6 foot and he showed up and he was 5'9". So I was like, there's a lot happening here. There's a fake accent. fake accent. And I don't care. Like, if you're shorter, you're shorter. But don't tell me you're 6 foot and then you show me you're 5'9". I was like, you're a little bit shorter than that.
I mean, I like to say I'm 6 on a good day, but I'm 5'11", and that's where all of the medical people have always put me at as 5'11". But I'm 5'11", 6.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
I'm 5'5". So he was right. I wouldn't qualify him as even 5'9". He was more like 5'8", 5'7". So I was like, I was looking him in the eyes and I was like, I was like, something's fishy about
he's
this.
definitely not 6.
No, definitely not.
That also brings up another point that I don't have written down, but I've heard it online a lot, and I see a lot of memes where women just are, when they're looking for guys, it's always, what's your height? And you
Mm-hmm.
have to meet a certain height. And I understand that's kind of like a type,
Mm-hmm.
but men have turned it around and have gone like, pardon my French, but I've gone like, okay, how big are your tits? And it's like, well, why should my tit size matter? Okay, well, why should my height matter?
Well,
You know,
the
but I
thing for
don't.
me is women argue the whole because guys, which I'm like, it's definitely I have a preference for taller men. I'm
Okay.
not saying I won't date someone if he's attractive, he's attractive. That's the thing for me. If you're a handsome man, I don't really care how tall you are. But if I'm definitely more regularly attracted to like taller men, at least like 6 foot. That's usually my range. So when girls get mad and like, oh, blah blah blah, start talking trash, I'm like, okay, well, one friend of mine, she got mad because this guy was like, oh, she asked how tall he was, and he's like, well, how heavy are you?
Oh
And
well,
she
yeah,
was like, how
that
dare
too.
him? And
Yeah.
I was like, well, you can't really get mad at him because like usually that's how tall he is. Like I was like, at least you could change how fat you are. He can't change how tall he is. Like that's just for life. Like you were mad because he asked you if you were fat or not.
Maybe that was the example I was looking for. Maybe it wasn't the tits. Maybe it was the weight. But a lot of those memes go around where it's the double-sided and then the women get offended. This is more casual than my interviews usually are. And so I don't understand why it is so casual, but maybe it's just because, like you've said, you've been around guys, you understand how guys talk. And so maybe I just feel more like, more comfortable talking. I don't know, but
It's
I
an
usually
individual
like,
thing.
I've censored myself a lot, which I already said I don't like censoring myself, but on these I try to stay as professional as I can. But this has been one of the most casual interviews I've ever had. Yeah, maybe it's because it's a 5:45 in the morning. Maybe it's just because I can just, be myself and I be more casual around you. I don't know.
That's the usual. I used to do my first job was a busser. I get arrested, like the people that take the plates and stuff. And people would just like start telling me their entire life story, which is what happens with my mom all the time. And I'm like, I don't know what it is about me, but people will be like, I got divorced to my wife. And I'm like, I don't know you. You don't know. But I'm like, I'm really sorry about that.
But I
People
mean,
have the need to like tell me their life stories all the time.
I'd take it as a compliment because that says that people can be comfortable around you. So I'd take it as a big compliment.
Exactly. I'm like, you know what? And I'm one of those people, I talk to everyone. I know so many people at the gym because I'll be like, I see you all the time. My name, and I'll like introduce myself, and they're like so confused, especially like I'm big in like fitness. And that's kind of where my video about the whole like feminism thing is because I am constantly seeing the girls are like, he's such a creep. He's like, and then like him, and I'm like, no, like he's existing and he's staring at the same direction as you, and there's nothing wrong with that. And I have had weird experiences with men at the gym. I've had people take pictures, whatever. And I'm like, at the same time, I also understand that I'm wearing ass tight shorts. They are up my butthole basically half the time. I understand that I look at other women's butts all the time. So I'm like, I can't even be mad because I look at it all the time. Like, so I'm like,
And
you can't be mad.
and you are, I will say, you are very attractive as well. Let alone, obviously I haven't seen you in tight booty shorts, but I will say, based off of the pictures that I have seen on your Instagram, you are very attractive. So I do understand. I saw this thing on YouTube the other day, and it was guys' brains are just wired that way. Like if you put two pictures of a woman right next to each other and ask the guy what the difference is, 9 out of 10 times they will look at the tits and they will look at, you know, the ass or whatever it is, you know,
I'm the
versus
same way.
women where you may look at the height, you may look at the eyes, you might look at the body type, whatever it is, you know, but guys, it's usually those parts. And that's just how guys are wired.
Well, that's how I've always kind of been too. Like in my relationships, I'll be like, and I've had guys so confused because they're like, "What did you just ask me?" So I'll be like, "Did you see her ass?" And they're like, "Did you just ask me what her?" And I'm like, "Her tits are huge." And they're like, "Why are you looking at that?" And I'm like, "What do you mean? You didn't see them?" And they're like, "I don't look at them." I'm like, "That is a lie."
That is a
I look at
lie.
them.
That is a lie. I will say that right now. That is a lie.
That is a lie.
It reminds me of a story of my oldest brother when he was younger, like when he was a toddler, not even a toddler, he was younger than that. Because my dad was carrying him through the mall with his first wife. And um my brother, the story goes that my brother saw this teenager walking by, and his head just kind of, like, my dad's carrying him, right? And he just kind of goes and follows the girl who's going past him. And my dad's curious as to what he's looking at. And so he turns around to look at, to look at whatever the baby's looking at. And Karen, his first wife, smacks him upside the head, going, "Why are you looking at her? What about me? Why are you looking at this teenager?" Or whoever it was. And it was like, "I was looking at what the baby was looking at." Yeah, blame it on the baby. But that's just
I'm the kind of girl, I'm like, I'll be looking before my man's looking. Like, that's just me.
based off of how you see it from a guy's perspective and from a woman's perspective. How do you see roles in a relationship? What do you think roles in a relationship should look like?
So for me, I wasn't raised in like your standard like happy family type stuff. I was raised with divorce. Like that was just I had my dad and my mom were just separated. So for me, I never really because my dad got remarried, not a huge fan of my stepmom. She was not somebody that like they weren't affectionate at all with each other. It's very uncomfortable to see them like even show small signs of affection that I'm like like so for me I've never seen that like happy family like white picket fence has just never been part of my like growing up or upbringing. And
Mhm.
so for me I've still always kept that like men are designed to do something, women are designed to do something. We're supposed to cook and clean, and women can be pissed as they want about that, but that's just kind of how it is. Like men can provide, that's kind of what men are meant to do is provide. But at the same time, I also have this kind of like mindset of there can also be equality in both of that. That yes, I am intended to cook and clean and just like caretake versus be the more provider role, but I can also still provide in ways and he can still cook and clean in some ways. Like it doesn't have to be on both people's shoulders, but still understanding the aspect of these are what we're made to do from the beginning. Like that's just that. And you can be pissed about them. Again, cry about it. But like keeping those roles, but also understanding there can be give and take with both for sure. So that's kind of
So,
been my mind.
so to me, I mean, and a lot of times when, the roles are brought up, it's put into a political side where it's more conservative, where it's, men are designed to do this, women are designed to do this, but then you have the liberal side. Like I said, it goes into the whole political thing. I relate to, growing up in a broken family. My parents
Mm-hmm.
divorced in 2008 when I was 6.
Okay.
And mom remarried, was married to a guy, divorced the guy, remarried the same dude, divorced him, and then finally got rid of him about 8 months ago after 10 years of emotional
Mm-hmm.
and spiritual and verbal abuse.
Yeah.
Finally got rid of him.
Mm-hmm.
And my dad has gone through numerous girlfriends and is finally with the girlfriend that he wants to marry, but certain circumstances, whatever, he hasn't married her yet.
Yeah.
But I understand or I grew up, I guess, in the more conservative way. where men
Mhm.
are supposed to be providers, women are supposed to be home with the kids. In
Mhm.
today's day and age, I also understand the side of the intermingling, and men can have these certain qualities. You now have your stay-at-home dads, or
Yeah.
women can have these certain qualities and they're now out working. You know,
Mhm.
I do think that in a relationship, there needs to be that mutual respect for each other. I saw a video earlier today, and this one was a parody of, sorry, Miley Cyrus's Wrecking Ball.
Mhm.
And it was, basically, I just came home from work. I work two full-time jobs. As soon
Mhm.
as I get home, you want me to clean the dishes, you want me to take out the trash, you want me to do all this stuff, and
Mhm.
I just want to sit home and chill,
Yeah.
for a little bit. Like,
Mhm.
give me a breather. I just got off of work. I don't really care right now. I just want to chill.
Yeah.
And his whole thing is, stop nagging me, stop nagging me. I don't want to deal with that stuff right now.
Yeah.
And I think that needs to be more uh that needs that needs to be more accepted, that needs to be more recognized.
Mhm.
Because if I had a partner that I was with and I got home and that's immediately how it was, that would be immediate dysfunction and it would not work. You
Definitely. I
know,
think because I've been that. So I lived with one of my exes a long time ago, right out of high school. And we lived together and he worked nights, I worked during the day.
complete
So
opposite schedules.
complete opposite schedules. We made it work. And I always made sure that, when I got home, it was kind of that he was the woman in that aspect. And it was like, well, why haven't you done? Why haven't you done this? Why? And I was like, I just got home. Give me 5 seconds. Like, I know that you're leaving for work. 5 minutes. And it was like, well, I need dinner. And I would still go cook him dinner. So he had dinner to take to work, clean the house while he's at work. And so it was like the constant cycle of doing everything. And like him and I, not on great terms, probably never will be. But I also was like, you know what? It is my job as a woman to cook, clean, and that's just what I'm going to do. But at the same time, it definitely put me in perspective of when I went to another relationship that if he comes home from work, he wants 5 minutes or however long he needs to just like do what he needs to do to decompress.
To decompress, yeah.
Because I've been the one that doesn't get to do that. And so that definitely also put it in large perspective of me that I was like, you know what? You just want to come from work? Totally get that. Just do your little thing. You let me know when you need me, type thing. And it's a lot of women get mad. It's like, oh, well, he expects this and this and this. And it's like, no, he literally just wants to come home and sit in silence for maybe 20 minutes. Like, just let him chill out for a moment because we're all human. We all get overwhelmed and being at work and constantly go, 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 go. And then to come home, it's like your safe space. And a lot of women don't make that a safe space because they're just like, the expectation of being the man and well, you just got home, you need to do this. And it's like, no, he's still a human being. Just because he's a man does not mean he instantly needs to start doing something for you. You're just as capable as providing whatever you need him to do for yourself. That's a huge thing for me because that's how I've been single for 4 years. So I've always just had to do everything for myself. And I think a lot of people need to be single for a lot longer than they allow themselves to be to learn that about themselves. Women specifically, because women are just he should pay for my dinners and he should do this and this. And I'm like, how about you take 5 minutes to do that for yourself and then realize how much the man is actually doing for you? Because it's a lot sometimes. And they don't hear that though.
I mean, I get that. I definitely get that. And I understand why you want to be single for a long time. I get that. I take probably a year plus in between my relationships, and I enjoy being a bachelor, you know. But if I find somebody that I like, then I might pursue it. But if not, I'm okay with being a bachelor. It reminds me of one of your posts where it was like, I don't have to tell you where I'm going. I don't have to, tell you who I'm with. I don't have to, you know, uh, you know, have these expectations being in a
Mhm.
relationship. It's freeing when you're not in a relationship. It's nice to a degree if you find the right person when you are in a relationship,
Yeah.
but I definitely understand the freedom. I mean, if I was in a relationship, my room probably wouldn't be a mess 90% of the time. It's only pretty clean right now because I'm moving in the next few weeks. So I
Yeah,
have to start
exactly.
cleaning and organizing stuff and whatever else. But
Mhm.
I can be who I am. It's my own oasis, my own little box. And getting back to one of your other points
Mhm.
where, men just decompressing, I saw a TED talk where it was comparing men's brain to women's brain.
Mhm.
And in the men's brain, it said, now in the men's brain, there's this little thing called the nothing box. And that box is literally empty. So when the guy says, or when the woman says, what are you thinking about? And the guy says nothing, they are literally thinking about nothing.
Just nothing.
Just nothing.
Yeah.
And it's the weirdest thing for a lot of women to understand that a guy can literally just sit there and think about nothing.
Which my mom's been so funny because she's like, honey, I think you have autism. And I'm like, thank you, mom. I love that you told me that. But I also have like major ADHD. Pretty sure she's right on the autism part. So I'm like, I don't have health insurance. So it's not confirmed yet. But when I do, it will be confirmed. But for me, I'm the same way. I'll be sitting there in outer space thinking about absolutely nothing. Like I listen to hardcore EDM, so I'll just be like, wah, 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 and I'm just like in my own little world, doing my own little thing, and people are like, "What are you doing?" I'm like, "Nothing."
Nothing.
Just
Absolutely
existing.
nothing.
Just out there.
So we've touched on a little bit of your relationships. Um, have you ever considered long distance relationships? And what are your thoughts on long distance relationships?
Um, so I've done it. I've tried the whole long distance. I had a boy. Well, I wouldn't even really say a boyfriend. I've had a situationship. The nowadays terms is that a situationship that lived in California, and
Relationship.
it was my first kind of experience. Well,
I call it
actually,
it's complicated, but okay.
oh yeah,
A
we'll get to that one.
situationship. I like that.
The,
I like
the
that.
first one that I was kind of like actually committed to. I lived in Idaho. I grew up there my whole life. I knew somebody for 4 years. We'd known each other with the same friend group, whatever. He moved to Arizona. And I came to visit him, and he was like, I want you to be closer to me. Like, come move here. We can make this work, blah, blah, blah. We talked on it. We talked for like a year, basically, of me moving down here. And I did, obviously, because now I reside in Arizona. And a week into moving, I found out that he was seeing someone in Utah. And I was like, all right. And at that moment, that was like peak rock bottom for me. I had no idea where I was. I didn't know anyone here. Like I have family out in Payson, but I'm not close with them. So it was like I didn't really have a whole lot of support. So I had no one. I had my dog. And that was it. It was just me and her chilling at that point. One friend that was like a mutual friend of his, though. So it was kind of
Awkward.
her boyfriend. Her boyfriend was his best friend. So it was like
Awkward.
awkward. But her and I were really close. So it wasn't awkward there, but her boyfriend and I were kind of like, he knew the side, I knew my side, and it was very uncomfy. But that was my first like committed long distance relationship that I was like, okay. And so then I gave another shot with my ex who's military, actually he's a Marine out in Camp Pendleton.
Well, that's the first mistake. I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, for sure. That was my learning experience. I call that the beginning of the end with my military men experience. Because I used to
Come on,
drive.
we're not all that bad. You just had bad
No,
luck with the Marine.
yeah, no, that's my first mistake. My best guy, one of my other best guy friends, he's a Marine and he's stationed out in Lejeune, and he's like, we're horrible. He's like, don't date us ever again. He's like, I am your best friend. He's like, but stop. And I'm like, okay, you're right.
Then again, I'm Air Force, so I'm gonna dog on all the other military branches, and they get to dog on me. But I really get to dog on the crayon eaters. So
Exactly. You guys have way better barracks. I'll give you that one. So, but I used to drive 6.5 hours every other weekend, basically. And then all of a sudden, I got back from a trip after seeing him for his birthday. And he called me. He said, some girl said I got her pregnant. I can't talk to you anymore. Blocked me on everything.
Wow.
Like, oh my God, what just happened? My whole world just kind of went, and I was like, okay, what just happened? And him and I are on good terms now. We definitely like talked things through. There was an experience with one of his best friends tried to throw me off the third story of a barracks, busted my face in because I wouldn't make out with him on his birthday and he was plaster drunk. Yeah, it was a whole thing. So I showed up after not seeing him for 2 years. I went out with his best friend for his birthday because we were really close still. Nothing weird. And come to find out there's all this stuff that I didn't know. And he was like, I was taking him back to his barracks to like make sure he was safe. And he went to kiss me and I went, no. And he took my face and just went wham to the front of it and blood was pouring down the front of my face. And I was like, so discombobulated. And he then tried to shove me off the fucking third story. And I was like, and I literally just shoved him in his room and closed the door. And I ran because I still had my other buddy's keys. And I knock on the door. And after not seeing my ex for 2 years, who called me last time and said he got a girl pregnant, answers the door. Blood is gushing down my face. And I went, here. And that was the time after I saw him. And I was like, wow. But we recently got in touch and we're cool now. But it was definitely one of those like, this is a lot.
That's a Marine.
Yeah.
Everything you just described, that's a Marine.
To a T. So I'll never learn. I always tell my mom that is the lesson I will never fully learn, I think. The guy, the Southern accent guy, Army.
So you've gone through Marine, you've gone through the Army.
Air Force. I dated Air Force. Likes that cheated on me. He was Air Force. I think that's it. I think those are all the branches I've got. Oh, my other ex is Navy, but he joined the Navy after we broke up.
Well.
Yeah. Hate to love him, love to hate him.
I want to smack the Air Force guy.
Yeah, he
that's what I want to smack the Air Force guy.
We call him the trial run boyfriend. We don't really count him as a boyfriend, but he was the first guy that I like started dating in Arizona when I first like moved here, settled in, like life had figured out a little bit. And it was kind of around the same time that my social media really blew up, on TikTok at least. And I don't think you've seen anything about it, but I got compared to a sexy version of Sid from Toy Story. Okay. I had braces. It was rock bottom life for me. Like it was a moment in my life where I was like, I really need to figure out what the fuck I'm doing because I was so unhappy with how I looked. My mental health there was a basement underneath of rock bottom and that's where I resided. But I met him and was just like obsessed from the word go. Like, and he love bombed the fuck out of me. And I was like, yay, happy rainbows. And then all of a sudden, he was like, oh, I need to work on myself, yada, yada, yada. Come to find out he'd been fucking his ex for the last 2 weeks of our relationship. And I was like, okay. And her and I were close for a little bit, but found out a lot.
The one ex that I could never actually get over, and I still have problems getting over her, and this was 2 years ago. No, 2020. 3 years ago? Over 3 years ago? God, that's weird. Was kind of the same ordeal where it was I fell head over heels and that's probably the closest thing that I can compare to love in a relationship because I've never felt anything like it since, but I also poured everything that I had into that relationship. And then towards the end, I don't know what it was, but towards the end, I didn't think there was anything wrong. And she just became very distant and then just sent me a text. Didn't even call me. And this was also a long distance relationship. But sent me a text saying, hey, this isn't working out. I'm breaking up with you. And that was the end of it. And then blocked me on, actually, no. And then 3 weeks later, because I was trying to still figure everything out. And
Mhm.
so, not 3 weeks, a few weeks later, she sent me a text saying, "Hey, how are you doing?" And it's like, you're gonna have the audacity to A, break up with me through a text, but then text me back and ask me how I'm doing? Really? Then she proceeded to block me on everything. Come to find out, because not only do I have my personal Facebooks, but I can tiny surveillance, you might call it creep, but tiny surveillance. I have an additional Facebook account that nobody
Mhm.
knows about, that I looked at her page, and 2 weeks before we broke up, or before she broke up with me, she had started or she had started dating another guy, and she had changed her Facebook status and started dating another guy. And I knew this guy to a degree
Oh.
because she didn't have a car at the time. And so I would drive up to take her to work. And
Mhm.
then one day she said, "Hey, my manager will take me to work." That was the first red flag that I should have seen. Then she started hanging with this guy, which should have been the second red flag. But of course, I was all into this relationship. And I'm like, okay, well, I'm going to trust you, because to me, trust,
Yeah,
I will give you my trust until you show me that you don't deserve it anymore.
100%.
And so I'm like, okay, I'm going to trust you. I still don't like this guy, but I'm going to trust you.
Yeah.
And then come to find out that it was a week, 2 weeks prior to her breaking up with me that she changed her profile status and that she was dating this guy. And now I think she's engaged to this guy at this
Mine
point.
just got married.
And it was, yeah, I still haven't fully gotten over that. And her sister and I were actually good friends. And I messaged her probably about a month ago and said, like, hey, I've never been able to figure this out. Because it
Mhm.
still dawns on me,
Yeah.
every now and again, like, hey, what the heck actually happened?
Yeah.
And I reached out to her sister, and she's like, hey, she kept all of us in the dark, as in her family. She kept
Yeah.
the entire family in the dark. She didn't tell us that anything was going on.
Mhm.
And then she just all of a sudden breaks up with you, actually started bashing me on Facebook, and started bashing me on YouTube. It was
You
interesting
and
because
Legs.
the comments that were being left were only stories that I had told her, and it was a week or two after she had broken up with me. But it was stories that I had only told her,
You
and
gave
the
yourself a.
account, I knew the guy that she was dating,
Mhm.
and a couple of letters were flipped. And I'm like, nah, this is you. You're gonna try to bash me on
Mhm.
my business. It's like, nope,
Yeah.
okay, delete, delete, delete,
Good.
delete, delete, delete. She left like 15 comments. It's like, really? I don't get it. I don't
People
get
are
it.
people are so weird.
But I've never been able to put myself full force into another relationship since then,
Mhm.
just because of that fear.
There's
Because
definitely
the
like
last time I
that.
put all this trust into somebody, I got screwed.
I always, because my dating history is a hell and a half
Probably
mess.
just as solid as mine is, which isn't, but okay.
Mine is bad. Mine is bad, but it's just like it just consecutively gets worse and worse. But I always like a big part for me is that I've always just remembered that somebody else's fault is not the other person's. And so I always try to keep in mind that just because that person cheated on me doesn't instantly equate to that person is going to be cheating on me. So I always go into it with the mindset of like, oh, new person, new experience, new memories, like look forward. I still get cheated on, but like I go into it with optimism. Worst that could happen.
You try to go into something with an open mind, and then it just gets screwed over. And then I now understand where I just watched Spider-Man No Way Home because they put it
Mhm.
on Netflix.
Mhm.
And MJ said, if you expect disappointment, then you will never be disappointed. You
You can't
almost
get
get
the
to that.
game if you don't
You almost,
play.
you almost get to that point. when you try to open yourself up so much or so many times, or you go in with all the optimism and then you just get screwed and screwed and screwed. It's like, all right, well, then I'm just going to go into it and expect nothing. And if something great comes out of it, great. But I'm not expecting anything, because then if I don't expect anything, I won't be disappointed if it's not there.
Somebody said something to me the other day, like expectations are the killer of joy. And I was like, ooh, kind of true. I was like, that's kind of dark.
Yeah, that sounds like a glass half full kind of person.
Sad.
Or yeah, glass half full kind of person.
I think a glass half empty is the
Glass half
negative
empty.
side. Yeah.
Whichever one. I don't know.
Who knows?
I don't know.
Sad. That's just sad.
Your tattoos.
My tattoos.
Your tattoos. Your tattoos are awesome. I love your tattoos. I'm also looking at getting at least a partial completion of my sleeve when I get to the UK. Do your tattoos have any significance?
Yeah, they have a lot, actually, surprisingly. A lot of people, I've had a lot of hate comments, specifically on TikTok, about you destroyed your body, you ruined it. Like, we all die one day, might as well decorate it. Like
I explained it to my godmother the other day, where it was like, hey, if you own a house and you're going to be in that house for your entire life, you want to put some pictures up, right?
Cool. Like, you telling me there's people walking around with nothing? That's boring.
It is.
Yeah. So with my sleeve, like I have a bunch of flowers, basically is how it started. And when I like first got my very first tattoo, I waited till I was 19. I didn't do like the dumb thing where I went at 16, because God knows what I would have gotten. But each flower on my arm like represents a female in my family. So like I have my stepmom, like my grandma, I have my best friend from back home, and then I have like the Idaho state flower like right here, because it's like close to home type thing. And at first I was like, oh, this is cute. Like we'll do, represent everyone in my family. I love the women in my family as much as they're absolutely batshit crazy, but they are. Then I tell my mom all the time, like my taste in men came directly from you. Certainly my dad's taste in women also shit. So I was like, clearly everyone in this family is just really bad at relationships. I was predisposed to bad taste. But as I grew up, I realized that the women in my family are really not, like I said, batshit crazy, not the best of people. My stepmom definitely full-fledged threw me into an eating disorder through high school. Major food issues from her end. My grandma, major narcissist. Just one thing after the other. I was like, as you grow up, obviously the wool comes off the eyes and you're like, oh, you're actually a horrible fucking person. So I put a snake through my arm, which is like, it starts right here and then it wraps around the flowers, kind of as like the metaphor of like snake in the grass, which is like, I love all of them. They're so like a part of me in a way, literally and metaphorically. But at the same time, I always have to have my own back when talking to the majority of them. So it's like keeping in mind that you can still have love for someone, but remembering there's always sometimes an ulterior motive, no matter how close you are, blood or not, watch your own back. And then I had that for a really long time, and it was just that. And then I added this crow, or this raven right here, not crow, raven, same fucking thing. I added that as like myself, because it was like that moment where ravens are extremely intellectual birds, like very protective, very like they eat snakes kind of thing. So I realized like all my entire life, I kind of just piggybacked on this aspect of the women in my life are just horrible to me. I'm the black sheep of the family. Like I've known that for years. And so I added that as myself, as like a turning my back against that type of part of my life. And like, I don't have to have a relationship with you because you treat me like shit. Like, and just because you are family doesn't mean you have any room in my life to criticize, ridicule, or anything negative in any aspect. And so I put some flowers right here. I have like one or two, which are my mom and my sister, because we've been through so much together, like just her and I. Like we went through, she was a raging alcoholic. Both my parents were. And so I was like, you know what? My mom, despite everything that she's been through, poverty, like we were bankrupt. We had like, they were nice. She didn't eat. Like we didn't have a car. We used to bike ride all the time, like around our town. And we've seen the darkest of dark. And so it was one of those moments where I was like, no, I've always been my mom's protector in life. I've never like really had the background of being the kid. Yeah, it's always like I'm the adult and I've always been the adult. My mom calls me crying. I don't call my mom crying about financial means, you know, like I'll cry her, like I'll call her and cry about like boys and dumb shit, but not like my life's falling apart type shit. Like that's my mom. So that's what I was like, you know what? I've always been her protector and I love her no matter what. And I'm proud of how far she's come, but I definitely like put her in there where it's like, I'll always have her back. Like she's always had my back no matter what. And so that was huge for me. And then I put this little Arizona flower as like a representation of like, I started in Idaho, now I'm here, and that's where I grew, and that's where I've become the best version of myself. So that's, everyone's always like, oh, it's a dumb fucking flower sleeve. And I'm like, let me tell you the story because you're about to feel like a fucking asshole. Like, it's actually very meaningful. And then I have one on my hip, my butt cheek, whatever you want to fucking call it. It's my butt cheek. I'll say it. And it's a Chinese dragon, Japanese dragon. I don't know the technical term, but I got it when I was going through that breakup with the guy that cheated on me because I was also dealing with, I mean, 8.3 million people saw the video of me being called like the sexy version of Sid. Like it blew up. And it was a point in my life where I was dealing with so much hate, going through a breakup, feeling rock bottom, where I was just like, barely going to the next day at certain points. And it like always reminds me because dragons are seen as like such powerful creatures throughout any type of history, being seen as like powerful, but also handling every situation that I face with grace because they're also very beautiful and graceful with how they are as a creature. So it's for me, it's like that constant reminder that, you know, handle it with strength, but also have grace because, you know what I mean?
I know exactly what you mean, and I've never been able to put it into words. I'm gonna move that
No,
back.
you're good.
I've never been able to put it into words, but I got a Valkyrie on my arm.
Shit, that's so fucking cool.
Yeah, I got this Valkyrie done last November, and exactly what you just said. They're
Yeah.
fierce, but they can handle it with grace. That's I've never been able to describe the meaning behind why I got this.
Yeah, no, that's definitely that's my Valkyrie is on my ass. It looks cool.
It looks cool.
Yours is dope. That's really well done too.
Have you
Some
ever
people
seen? I'm sorry. Have you ever seen the show Ink Master?
loving.
Okay. Does the name DJ Tambi sound familiar?
I'm horrible with names. Like it is
Okay.
my worst quality.
Okay. Well, he was the winner of season 9, 10,
Oh shit.
14, and he is now he is now a judge on this current season.
Does he have glasses?
Yes.
Okay, I think I know what you're talking about.
Big,
Yeah.
square, black glasses.
Definitely know what you're talking about. Did he do that?
Yeah, this was him.
Shit. Holy fuck.
A lot of money, but this was him.
Yeah, I was gonna say. That's what I'm like. Yeah. People are like, tattoos make you look cheap. I'm like, no, that's somebody that's fucking got money.
I mean, I learned in his shop, good tattoos are not cheap and cheap tattoos are not good.
Exactly.
I learned that off of this lion that I have right here.
So I have one on my back. I'll show you. Because I think I am. I don't know if you can see it very well, but it's
3 arrows.
Yeah, so I have 3 arrows on my back. Which again is a huge like thing to my mom because it's like basically in war 2 crossed arrows means like a sign of peace and being like we're cool now, you know what I mean? So I got that. I did 3 because me, my mom, and my sister, and then I made a broken one as like represent myself in that the aspect of I wouldn't be the person I am. I wouldn't be as powerful as I am without her because she's the part that makes it whole and me capable of being where I am. So that was a huge one for me. So we were like, that's sick. I'm like, I forget it's fucking there all the time. I'm like, I don't know what you're talking about.
That's why I don't want tattoos on my back because I'll never see them.
Like, I don't know what the fuck it's back there. I'm like, I have tattoos. Like, Jake. And then I got some little knives on my ankles that I got for Friday the 13th. And then my ex copied them. So that was cool. I always tell him like, now we got matching tattoos. And then I have like a little sprig between my boobs, but that was it. That was also another like little. Oh, and then I also have one of my ribs.
Oh, how did
See,
the ribs? How much did the ribs hurt?
so I have like this was my second tattoo. This part right
Mm.
here. It says parting is such sweet sorrow that I shall say goodnight till it be morrow, which is a Shakespeare quote. But my great grandma always used to say it before she like every time she left. No matter that woman forgot so much shit, but never forgot that. And she passed away, so I got that for her. And she loved butterflies, so I had a little butterfly underneath. But um, the words hurt. The words definitely were spicy for a second tattoo. The butterfly that I got, it was the easiest tattoo I think I've ever gotten. Which it's tiny, so it's not like it's big, but like the dragging of cursive on, and I'm very small frames, so for me, my ribs are there. You know what I mean? Like for a larger person, I'm sure it's fine. For me, it's like there's parts of the words where like the letters are kind of curved because it's like rib. Wouldn't suggest it for
I'm
words.
kind of like 145 soaking wet. So 6 feet, 145 or 5'11", 145. Yeah, no, I get being a thinner person. I get it. I'm told every day, like, oh, you're gonna blow over, you're a twig, you're a pencil. I've heard it all.
It's
My
when you start feeling.
metabolism won't do any weight gain. I've
Yeah,
been 145 since high school.
yeah.
It just
It's
won't
hard.
do
It's
it.
when you're just like, because my dad has really fast metabolism, and being in fitness, it's fucking. I lose 5 pounds randomly all the time, and it's like people are like, "Oh, you lose 5 pounds within a day," and I'm like, "Well, yeah." And then on some days I'll gain it, and then some days I'll lose it, and it's like people don't realize when your metabolism is so fast, you can't regulate it. It's just all fucking over the place. Like,
Well, it's weird for me because I can eat and eat and eat all I want to. I won't gain any weight, but I also won't lose any weight. At one point, yeah, it's weird. At one point, like I was going to the gym constantly.
mhm,
After that, I had then gotten COVID, started drinking because my grandmother was in the hospital, started vaping because my grandmother was in the hospital. But anyway, when I was in the gym, I was working with a trainer and he was going, I want you to log all of your food.
mhm,
And the bar that he wanted my calorie count at, I was like 600 calories underneath it, 600 to 700 calories underneath it. And
mhm.
he's like, how are you not losing any weight? I'm like, I have no idea. My weight just stays the same. No matter how much I eat, I don't gain weight. No matter how much I don't eat, I will feel that I'm not eating, but I don't lose weight. I don't get it. It's weird.
It's one of those
So I
like
just have to be content with being this skinny.
we fit in smaller places.
That is also true.
You can reach your back. There's benefits to this. My buddy, love him, but he's like a huge gym rat, and he's like, I put a pimple patch on his back the other day because there's a massive pimple, and he literally calls me 3 days later and he goes, "Can you come over and take that pimple patch off?" He said, "You haven't taken it off," and he goes, "I can't reach it." I was like, "Yes, see, a win is a win."
Let's see where are my fingers at? If you can see my fingers, yeah, where are my fingers
Yeah,
at?
I'm the
Yeah,
same way. I'm like, you guys are like, come on, and they're like, I can't reach it.
which like I said, this is the most casual interview conversation I've ever had when doing these.
Mhm.
So thank you for letting me just relax and not worrying about it.
You're all good.
I absolutely hate that stuff wanted to malfunction at the beginning. To me, that's just those OCD things. But okay, guys, thanks for listening to this episode of Your Story. It's a little bit different than what we have done before, and that's a good thing. Again, Izzy, thank you for allowing me to just be comfortable and not having to be totally, totally professional like I have been on all the other ones. I tried to keep somewhat of a professional aspect, but you've allowed me to let down some of those guards and some of those barriers and talk about stuff that normally we wouldn't be able to talk about. Like you said at the beginning, where it's more taboo, you know,
Mhm.
and just thank you for not only allowing these topics to be brought up during this, but thank you for putting those topics out on TikTok and on Instagram as well. I don't know if you're on Facebook or YouTube, but if you are, there's some more audience.
I'm working on it. I'm getting there. We're working on it.
But anyway, good luck with everything. I look forward to seeing more of what you put out, more of your rants. If they aren't directly associated with something, more of your rants. I always look forward to them. So thank you for that. And yeah, I hope you have a good rest of your day after we get off of this call.
Thanks for having me. I don't usually, this is like my second time I've done a Zoom meeting. So I'm always excited.
Yeah, absolutely no problem. But all right, we're gonna sign off. I'll catch y'all later.